Hi, everybody. I'm John Self. Welcome to the Friday session of answering questions. So, if you want to participate today, I encourage you to put your questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them. We do not use names, and we hope that you will, send us your questions, and we look forward to answering them for you. I'm going to make a quick adjustment here, and I'll be right back with you. And they said, let there be light. Okay. It's a great Friday. Delighted that you're here. Again, we're happy to, goodness gracious. Well, I'm delighted to be with you today, and let's start all over. We had a circuit on the lights that we had to fix, and so now we've done that. And then the chair malfunctioned, and the sound is good today, so we're hopeful that everything moves forward. Thank you again for being here. The format is pretty simple. People send in questions in advance, or they we'll drop them in the chat box, and we'll then pick them up on the pick them up and then answer them. We will not use your name, and so we're glad you're here with us today. So let's get started. Tell me about yourself. These are 5 or 8 questions that have come in, and I sort of put them together because I think these are 8 questions you absolutely have to be ready to answer in an interview. And so let me summarize those 8 questions for you. Tell me about yourself. Walk me through your resume. How did you hear about this position? Why do you want to work for this company? Why do you want this job? Why should we hire you? What can you bring to the company? What are your greatest strengths? Now, these are not rocket science questions, but they're very, very important questions that are at the heart of why you will get hired or not. Now, let's back up and really deal with this one important issue, and that is that it's a zero-sum game in the job search market. And if you don't come in prepared, then somebody else is going to beat you out. If you don't come in prepared, you won't do your best work, and you will be left on the sidelines. And so you have to play to win. And this is not a situation where you get participation medals. You can go to the poorhouse with participation medals. So you've got to be prepared, and you start off preparing with questions you're going to be asked. And there are multiple questions that are in that 8, and they can be asked multiple different ways, but they all are pretty closely related. So let's talk about how you should approach this. First of all, get our core and categorical insurance interview form, and break the job down into categories: operations, financial management, HR, the people who work for you, how do you manage them? Marketing, governance, reporting to a board or reporting to a senior management team. And so that's kind of what you need to be thinking about, and breaking it down, and then start thinking in each category, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What questions would I ask me if I were doing the interview? And just what are your strengths, weaknesses? What are your successes? And from that successes group, you can think about stories or examples of you can think about examples of your successes and put them into stories, because stories are remembered very, very well. And so that's something that I think is really important for you to consider, is break that down, get that form. It's free, and we'll help you with a free phone call how to break that down and show you how to use that form. I've done several videos on that, and I've also done, it's in our interview course online. If you're not a member of our Your Career community, I join, because it's $49. It's probably the best coaching price you're going to get anywhere on the internet. I've been an executive recruiter for 27 years. I worked globally over 6 countries and 4 continents. I work domestically over about 40 states, 39 or 40 states. I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of searches. I've interviewed thousands of executives and managers. And so this is, it is just, it's something that I'm really pretty good at. And I know what a bad interview sounds like, because I've sat through a bunch of them. So break down the job and think about, because from those categories, that's where the questions are going to come from. So get that form, download it from our website at johngself.com. Now, I think it's still free. If not, become a member. $49. I mean, you can get it. Plus, you get access to our 10 or 11 courses that are video on demand online. And in the interview course, which is a very in-depth course, you'll find out how to use that. You'll get more information on how to prep for an interview and how to use that form. Okay, a little disjointed there, but we'll get in the sync in just a second. So this first question is, tell me about yourself. Now, what they're not asking for is your resume summary. They got your resume. You don't need to give that to them again. So they've got your resume. So what they want to hear from you is your unique value proposition. Why should they hire you? There's that other question. What are your strengths? What can you bring to the table that maybe the competitors will not bring? And on Wednesday, we talked about our market niches, and there are a lot of little things that people just don't bring up in an interview that would be tremendously helpful if they would only use them and use them to their advantage. But tell me about yourself is really about, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what you can, if you hire me, this is what you're going to get. And I promise you, I'll deliver on my commitments. Now, there are people who want you to talk about your resume, and that is usually a walk me through your resume question. Now, not being prepared for that question is pretty bad. I tell you, it is just something that you don't want to do. You want to be prepared. And so what I encourage you to do is to look at your resume and write a 200-word summary. Touch all the places I've gone. Here are the highlights, but touch all the places, but spend a little bit more time on those positions where you are really pretty proud of your accomplishments. And then rehearse it again and again, and insert some value. And at this deal, I accomplished this, and it was really instrumental to the success of the organization, or something. Anytime you can talk about the good you've given to the organization, that's something you want to use. So that walk me through your resume question, you may get that. Okay. There's some people that ask that question because they don't know any better. They don't want to ask the behavior and values questions, but so that is a question that I think you can be prepared for, and when you get prepared for it, know what you're going to stress and have the highlights from those jobs ready to go, so that you're not wandering around like I am this morning. How did you hear about this position? Now, somebody says, "Well, what difference does it make?" Well, if you have a network and somebody has referred you to that position, that person may be it may be somebody in the organization. And if it is, you certainly want to get that information out. And it may be somebody who is well respected in the industry. If it is, you want to get that information out. It may be somebody that that organization really, really respects in the community or in the industry. You want to get that information out. So that's why people will ask that question, and that's why it's important for you to have a good answer. Try to, and it also speaks to this your network. That's really a really, really important thing these days is to have a good, strong network, and so that you can, so that you know that having a good network and knowing some well-placed people speaks volumes as to who you are, and is sort of a supporting issue and why you should be hired. Okay. Why do you want to work at this company? Well, everybody who runs a company is proud of the company. They're proud of what they do. And so they want to know why you want to work for their company. They want to know why they should give you a chance, why they should share their dream, their development with you. And I think that you really need, before you go in, always have an answer to that question. It may not be asked, but you know what? You'll use the answer in a different way throughout the interview. So why do you want to work for this company? It may be it aligns with my values. It is geographically right where my family and I want to be. And, we're not people who like to move around. We're very loyal to companies we work with. So this allows you to instill, again, your values and say things that will reassure that CEO or that HR director or that hiring manager that if they hire you, that you care about that company, that you care about their mission, vision, and values, and that you will be a really great asset to that organization. So that's another reason why you want to be prepared. Why do you want this job? Well, again, I think it gives you an opportunity to speak to your qualifications and speak to your accomplishments and to talk about making a meaningful contribution to the organization, to your colleagues, and to the community. Again, those are things that people like to hear. And, I need a job is not a good answer. Matter of fact, that's a suck answer. So don't use it. I really encourage you to think creatively. Why would you want to work there? What strengths do you have that you can bring to the table that these people are going to really appreciate, that they're going to want to include into their mix of their services, the mix of their culture, which can give you an advantage over another applicant? What can you bring to the company? And see how these questions, they're different, but they all are similar. Okay. What can you bring to the company? Now, this is where you've got to sell yourself. You don't want to tell people the answer to this question. You want to sell the answer to this question. You want to get them to really understand that you are a uniquely qualified and talented person who has a unique value proposition, and that you would be excited and honored to work for this company, and that you will bring loyalty, and you will bring hard work and dedication. You will go the extra mile. There's a lot of things you can say, but be authentic, be sincere, and really think again deeply about your past experiences, your accomplishments, and when those two issues integrate with the new company. If they have challenges that you've dealt with in the past successfully, well, then you need to connect that dot for them. When they say, what can you bring to the company? Maybe you've identified they have 4 challenges, and they've said that in the job summary, or the recruiters told you that. And if they haven't, you should have asked. And to get them to, and then say, I've dealt with this issue before and was very successful, and here's how I did it. And I've done this before, and here's why I was successful. And I've addressed this. I've led this team before, and here's why I was successful. It gives you an opportunity to sell your previous experience and your accomplishments, and then connect those with their needs. Why are they hiring someone? And now that gives you an opportunity to handle that, make that connection for them. Please, please, please don't assume that the hiring authority or the CEO or the HR person is going to look at your resume and make those connections, that you have the ability, the experience, the value to help them solve those problems. You're going to have to tell them and show them. And so you can't let, if you expect them to do the math, you'll be disappointed. They'll get the wrong answer. Okay. And what are your greatest strengths? And again, gosh, this is a question people say, huh? I've seen people just basically just, half, you know what, not even put the effort into the answer. And I think that it's something that people can. This is one of those questions where you can make a difference, where you can get a leg up on your competitor. And if you're prepared to answer this question, here it is. It's asked all the time. If you're ready to answer that question and you have a great answer, you're going to be in better position to get the job. Okay. Remember, getting a job is a zero-sum game operation. Okay. Why do recruiters persist in asking the question about your weaknesses? I've read where several career coaches say it's unimportant, it produces no value, and is really inappropriate. What's your advice? Okay. I have a very strong opinion about this, and it's probably going to fly in the face with some of those so-called experts online. Keep in mind, a lot of times the people that are giving advice online, find out who's their target audience. If you're an executive or a manager, you don't want to be listening to a coach who focuses on hourly workers or staff employees or lower level people, not even at the supervisory level, because the advice they give is not going to be the advice you need. So make that distinction. I only handle managers and executives. Now, can I do lower level people? Yes. But my goal is to deal with managers and executives, because that's what all of my experience has been for the last 27 years in recruiting. And throughout my career, I've always been a business developer, a rainmaker at the highest level. So let me tell you why I asked that question. If you're insecure about your weaknesses, then you're going to respond in ways to other issues that are not going to be very helpful. Now, when I was recruiting, I gave a 3-year placement guarantee, both tenure and performance. And I will tell you that I very, very rarely had to go back and redo a search. Rarely. In the CEO side, I never had to go back, ever. And one of the reasons I ask the weaknesses, because I want somebody who has enough emotional intelligence, enough emotional security that they can say, yeah, here's my weaknesses. Here's what I need. I always worry about, and I work on them very carefully. Because if he's not aware that he has weaknesses, then he's going to be a disaster leader. If he doesn't want to talk about his weaknesses, he's going to be a very unresponsive leader. Now, the guy who can sit there, or the woman who can come in and say, here, yeah, I have these weaknesses. Sometimes your strengths can be your weaknesses, can become weaknesses when you the strengths run amok. For example, I am very verbal. I've made my career and a life and a lot of money selling ideas, concepts to senior executives, whether it was helicopters in hospitals in the 70s, management contracts for rural hospitals that were struggling with the change from cost-based reimbursement to DRGs in the 80s, to turnaround hospital board members that needed help in turning around their hospital, and for 27 years as an executive recruiter. So I have a lot of experience in dealing and communicating at that level. Let's go back to that question again, and let's be sure that we put a fine point to it. If you cannot have the confidence to talk about your weaknesses, you're probably a terrible leader. Now, you may not want to talk about them because you may believe that makes you look weak. No, it doesn't. It makes you look strong. One executive that I was interviewing one rainy, stormy night in St. Louis for a hospital up in Oregon, I said, tell me about your weaknesses. And we were videoing it to show the board. And he looked at the camera and said, maybe we better ask my wife first. And when the board heard that answer, I remember thinking, what a clever answer. But when the board heard it, they were all kind of sitting back like this and just listening. I mean, so far at this point, he was just like so many other candidates. And when they did that, they all laughed. It was a spontaneous, robust laughter. The men nervously, the women on the board knowingly, and they all then leaned into him. They decided they liked him. And so with that one little aside, that one little sort of transition compliment, they made a decision that they liked him, and they wanted to recruit him, and he took another position, but it was for his wife kind of interceded in the process. I think he would have come to that hospital in a heartbeat. But the point is that he really did a great job because he had a little funny line and he knew how to use it, and he knew how to connect with people, and that's really important because that's what interviewing is all about. I've had executives who have gotten really, really snarky in interviews when I asked that question. They never made it out of the first round of the interviews. When it comes to me, most of the time in executive search, you get screened by a researcher or an associate, then a senior associate who's going to manage the logistics and the process of the project comes along, and you'll do another interview with them, and they'll spend more time getting to know you. And then with the partner, that's the last person you're going to deal with before you're presented. And we did a very, very in-depth interview. And so if somebody did not handle that question well, they did not go forward. I don't care where they went to school. I don't care what their resume looked like. Why? Because I don't want somebody who's going to go in there and think it's all about them, who thinks they have no weaknesses, they have no problems. I want somebody who's really aware of who they are and is comfortable with that and can put their best foot forward. Okay, so that's why we asked that question. Now, let me share something else with you. If you take that question and you really work on a good answer, that can be a home run answer for you. If you don't like the question, fine, but you're still going to have to answer it. So why not get ready and have a home run answer? That's the smart move. The people who dig their heels in the sand and just give a perfunctory answer because they don't think it's appropriate are pretty stupid. I'm sorry, but that's pretty stupid. Why would you do that and disadvantage yourself in an interview? So that's my take on that. I know it was a little bit of a long answer, but I've been hearing that nonsense about that question for a long time. John, this week on Lunch and Learn, you talked about developing your micro niches to differentiate yourself from competitors in the interview pool. You gave a couple of examples. How can I do a self-inventory to develop my own custom responses? Well, that is a great question. Thank you, Rob. Where are you? Minnesota. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the question. It's like preparing your value brand statement and knowing what your strengths are. Okay. And when you get into that, you think about, okay, what are all the issues at stake? There are some industry issues. And so I'm going to revert to healthcare because I've done so much of that in my career. But let me revert to healthcare as a default example here. Right now in healthcare, the average engagement at the employee level is 33%. That is pathetic. That's absolutely pathetic. And so this is something, if you know that they have a low engagement, and it's pretty much all over the country. So, I mean, it's a safe bet they probably do. What is their turnover rate? Okay. If they have a higher turnover rate, whether it's the department you're going to take over or the division you're going to run or the organization that you're being recruited to be the CEO for, those are questions you need to ask. And then when you're in the interview process, in the final interview, it gives you a chance to talk about your strengths and talk about, yes, and I understand that you've had a turnover issue. I know how to fix that. And I can help you save hundreds, if not millions of dollars on an annualized basis. And that depends on, of course, how big their turnover rate was. In one OR, they had a 17% turnover rate with 77 RNs. It was almost an $800,000 swing when we got that problem fixed. So it's a big issue. Hospital boards, it's never reported to hospital boards. It never reported to corporate boards. And yet it takes millions of dollars off the bottom line of companies because of turnover. So if you know they've got that issue, talk about how you can fix it. Leverage that micro issue into something that you can use to promote your strengths and promote your skill sets and promote your accomplishments. Another area that's really pretty common these days is, people. Oh gosh, I had an example a few minutes ago, and it's left the building. But there are dozens of these things. Do an inventory of yourself and know the strengths, and then do an inventory of the hospital or the organization that you're being recruited by, and you'll find telling the telltale signs in the job summary, because they'll be asking certain things. Now, if you don't ask a lot of questions in the screening interviews, shame on you, because you can get a lot of great information that's going to help you make your case by asking questions, your own questions. And that includes up into the final interview. So you need to be really, really good about that. Ask the questions and then start connecting your experience, your skills, your accomplishments with their needs. And talk about, you take all of those issues and you leverage them to differentiate yourself. I guarantee you, most of your competitors in any search are not going to go to that trouble. They're going to come in and try to answer questions and be very corporate and sound very good. But you may not be a great speaker, but if you're somebody who knows how to connect with people, if you know how to reassure them that you have the skills and the abilities to solve their problems, you'll have as good a chance to get that job as the person who's the ace speaker. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Can employers check references that are not on your list? Yes, they can. How do I manage my exposure to a possible unexpected negative response from someone who's not on my list? Well, first of all, in an interview, never mention anybody's name that you know that you don't, unless you absolutely know they are going to give you a favorable response. So don't use names trying to impress people, especially if you don't know what those people will say about you, because that happens all the time, especially in specialty hospitals where you have a not tight-knit community. Catholic health, public hospitals, university hospitals, those people talk all the time. And so you may hear a recruiter say, well, Janet, that's interesting. I used to work with people in Harrisburg. I know people in Harrisburg. Who did you work with? As soon as you give up a name, that's a potential secondary witness, secondary reference. And so that is something that you can use positively. But if you're not careful about the names you share, it can become a negative. So have a sort of a list of people that you always work into the conversation that could be potentially favorable second witnesses. I've been watching too much cable television, I think. I am so frustrated with the rejection I'm getting when I apply online. Why? I have a record I have a good record in my previous jobs. Doesn't that count for anything? Yes, but it doesn't count for you getting noticed. It doesn't count to get you to the table. This is a marketing exercise. It is a brand management exercise. So now more than ever before, companies are using high-speed scanners. They're using other methodologies, using AI-powered automation to look for resumes on LinkedIn based on profiles, to look for your resume to see how much you align with the job at hand. But if you have to get out and promote yourself. And you're absolutely crazy if you don't have a good, strong LinkedIn profile. And you should have your resume, an updated resume on LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn work history should align with the resume. And you should have 2 or 3 mini case studies of things that you've done that have been very successful. If you want a couple of examples, email me at info@johngself.com and I'll send you a free example. These are ways to get your brand, elevate your brand. Because it's going to be all about who do you know? And unless you are a household name in your industry where your name is on the tip of everyone's tongue, you're going to have to hustle if you want to be discovered to take up that next better job. Because just doing a good job is not enough. We are becoming a very media savvy, technologically savvy, automated society when it comes to recruiting. And so you have to do things that elevate your brand so that you can be seen and found. Now, you also need to build a good network because most of the jobs are not online. They're not posted, but they're going to get filled by referrals. And who can refer you? Good networking people. So that's another thing you need to consider. Well, let's see. It's a little bit after 11:30. We try to limit this for 30 minutes. I apologize for the spits and starts earlier with the light to fuse, and then the chair got caught on the carpet mat, so nearly killed myself. So anyway, gosh, somebody says, this is authentic public TV. We have this thing that you do video and you want to look really professional, but my gosh, sometimes the things just don't go according to plan. And the old joke, I have a great friend who used to be a Broadway actor producer, Peter Piccinini in New Jersey, and Peter always says, don't call attention to your mistakes. Okay. And that is exactly a smart. Hey everybody, we enjoyed it today. I hope that you'll come back and join us next Friday for your community questions, and we'll see you on Wednesday for office hours. Cheers, everybody. Have a great weekend, and this will be online available shortly.